Hello, welcome back to my channel. Today's video is the first of my 2 videos about Napoleon Bonaparte, who was a great military genius, an enlightened emperor, an ambitious conqueror, and a notorious womanizer who rose to power quickly and fell down as quickly. Ever since, he has been the subject of many books, movies, and artworks. As a matter of fact, a new movie with the title Napoleon will soon be released in America, which I'm sure will be full of interesting stories.
What is your name?
Napoleon.
Has the course of my life just changed? Napoleon.
What I am doing in my videos is to look at him from a historical perspective, providing you with a little historical background against which he rose and fell. Of course, I have a lot to say, because I take very much interest in Napoleon. In my view, he was one of the 3 greatest military geniuses in history, the other 2 being Alexander the Great and Julius Caesar. By the way, the content of my videos is largely based on one of my published books, which is entitled Essentials of World History. If you want to know more about him and his time, you may want to read this book, which is available on Amazon. Napoleon was born in 1769 into a family of Italian nobility in a small island of France, which used to belong to Italy. As a child, he was speaking Italian all the time. When he turned 9, he moved to the French mainland. At age 10, Napoleon was admitted into a French military school. From then on, he had to speak French. But he never mastered the French language, always speaking with a heavy Italian accent, and he remained a poor speller all his life. At school, he was often bullied by his peers because of his birthplace, his Italian accent, and his short stature. As a result, he became quite reserved and turned to reading for comfort. By the way, throughout his life, Napoleon was nicknamed the Small Guy. Napoleon graduated in 1785 at the age of 16, and he joined the artillery as a 2nd lieutenant. Thanks to his political shrewdness, he was soon promoted to brigadier general at the age of 24. In 1896, he led a successful military campaign against the Austrians and their Italian allies, and became a national hero. 2 years later, he led a military expedition to Egypt. Although the Egyptian expedition was not so successful, he returned to France as a hero. After that, he quickly rose through the ranks of the army, earning himself an impressive reputation and popularity. That was the beginning of his interest in politics. However, it was the French Revolution that gave him an opportunity to grab political power. The French Revolution, which had started in 1789, had smashed the entire political structure of the past, but a new system had not been built. There was bloody violence everywhere. King Louis XVI and his wife Marie Antoinette had been executed. France was also in danger of being invaded by foreign powers. The National Convention, which was in control after the monarchy was abolished, called for an election in 1792. However, as chaos and violence continued, the elections seemed to be in danger. It occurred to the convention that military forces were needed to ensure peaceful elections. It was at this moment that Napoleon was called upon to put down riots which were breaking out in many places across France. Eventually, the election went ahead and the body of directors was elected. However, the directory was unpopular, unstable, and short-lived. Napoleon, having become famous and powerful due to his success of putting down violence, saw an opportunity and staged a coup d'etat in 1799 and set up a new governing body which was called the Consulate. The Consulate was made up of 3 consuls, including Napoleon himself. Napoleon was very familiar with the history of the ancient Roman times. Not only did he borrow the term consul from the Roman times, he also became a copycat of Julius Caesar, whose political career started with being a successful military general in the same way as Napoleon himself. Just like Caesar, who became a consul after seizing power through military force, Napoleon defined his new role as a consul. In the same way as Caesar, who became a dictator, Napoleon had himself appointed first consul, making the other 2 consuls figureheads. 3 years later, in 1802, he revised the constitution and appointed himself as consul for life. It was another step on his way to becoming an emperor. However, the ambitious Napoleon did not find the new title satisfying. In 1804, he declared himself emperor at an extravagant ceremony which took place at Notre Dame de Paris. The ceremony was done in the presence of the Pope, symbolizing the approval from God. But in the meantime, Napoleon symbolically rejected the power of the Pope by snatching the crown from the Pope and putting it on his own head. By doing so, he was declaring that there was no one above him. The coronation was vividly depicted in a monumental oil painting, which shows the moment when Napoleon was crowning his wife Josephine after he had crowned himself. By the way, Napoleon later on divorced Josephine because she couldn't bear him an heir. This painting, which is 6 meters high and 10 meters wide, is one of the most famous paintings of Napoleon. Another painting, which is entitled Napoleon Crossing the Alps, is perhaps even more famous. It depicts Napoleon leading his troops across the Alps into Italy, where he won several victories. By the way, I shot this picture at the Belvedere Palace while I was visiting Vienna. From a historical point of view, the crowning of Napoleon formally marked the end of the French Revolution because France now turned back to monarchy. There have been different theories about why Napoleon wanted to make himself the emperor. According to himself, he wanted to suppress any more potential uprisings or anarchy because he had previously quelled several assassination attempts. Also, he needed to proclaim himself as the highest authority to make France stable. He also wanted to reassure his allies and enemies that he was in firm control. Of course, what he didn't say was that he was an extremely ambitious man, and he wanted to be a man like Julius Caesar of the ancient Roman times. Now, as the sole ruler of France, Napoleon consolidated and even expanded many of the innovations of the French Revolution. Under his rule, France's government was finally centralized. The Bank of France was established, and Roman Catholicism was declared the country's official religion. A road and sewer system was established. A higher education system was put in place. Perhaps the most important reform he took was to codify laws. In 1804, the so-called Code of Napoleon was issued. It was the first law in France with the purpose to maintain equality of classes and to create a system for the administration of justice. The French Revolution had caused bloody violence, chaos, and foreign invasions. Now, Napoleon brought back political stability and he defeated foreign powers. His popularity increased and his reforms were accepted by the French people. Before I talk about the Napoleonic Wars, I must point out that Napoleon was influenced by and a beneficiary of the French Revolution. So it was only natural that he was convinced of the virtues of the revolution and was determined to protect and spread its principles by military force if necessary. Also, he had an ambition to establish an empire under his control in the same way as the ancient Roman emperors did. From 1803 until 1815, a series of wars broke out, which became known as the Napoleonic Wars. These wars initially started when Britain declared war on France in 1803 in its attempt to suppress the French Revolution. Soon afterwards, one coalition after another was formed by a range of European powers against France. Napoleon turned these wars into campaigns of conquest to spread the revolutionary spirits to other nations. In the next 10 years or so, Napoleon conquered many nations and formed alliances with other nations and regions in Europe, except Portugal, the Ottoman-held Balkans, and Britain. In each conquered state, Napoleon forcefully introduced the major legal and administrative reforms of the French Revolution. For example, he did away with feudal privileges, advocated equality of rights, encouraged religious toleration, codified law, and established efficient and systematic administration, including the use of the metric system. In many places and many aspects of life, the influence of Napoleon as a great conqueror can still be felt even nowadays. Well, that is all that I wanted to talk about in this video, which is the first of my 2 videos about Napoleon. In the second video, I will be talking about how he was defeated and what his legacies are. Please subscribe to my channel so you won't miss the second video. Thank you for watching this video, and I will see you in the next one.